Welcome to Family Business World. I'm Dr. Dale Caldwell, your host, and I'm honored to have one of my best friends, the godfather to my daughter, and one of the most outstanding leaders of small businesses in South Florida, Dexter Bridgeman, CEO of Media Group. Dexter, welcome.
Thank you, Dale, for inviting me. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking time.
Pleasure. We go back many, many years.
We go back many, many years. And as I said, I really want to, you have such a great story, you know, how you chose to leave New York to go down there and all the things you've done for family and small businesses. So I want to begin by talking about, you and I used to throw parties in New York and do things in New York. And so what took you to South Florida from being a New York guy? You were probably the quintessential New York guy.
Oh, those are some legendary times and days where, you know, I don't know if those days will ever come back, at least not for us, at least maybe for the next generation. But, yeah, we did some pretty exciting things with our rooftop parties.
Rooftop parties.
We were doing those type of things before P. Diddy even thought about it.
Exactly. He learned it from us.
But in 2003, actually, I decided to visit South Florida for the first time, visit my sister, and I just fell in love with it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to come down here. I'm going to relocate. I just could not get over the weather because when I went to visit my sister, it was in November. So I distinctly remember just able to get off the runway as we were experiencing a snow blizzard in New York, and just being able to get off the runway in LaGuardia. And I had my snow boots on, parka, and all this. And when we landed in Fort Lauderdale, man, I saw people. This is November. Right. I saw people walking around with flip-flops on and white beaters and these colorful shirts, and I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? I went outside, it was like 85 degrees, right, and I still had my parka on. And my sister was like, you're sweating up a storm. You can take off your parka now. We're in South Florida. It doesn't snow in South Florida.
And then you know, your passion for, you saw there was an opportunity, especially with African-American businesses down there. So how did you start Media Group? What prompted that?
Well, they say necessity is the mother of all invention, and I essentially went to a newsstand one day and saw that there wasn't anything. There weren't any black publications on the newsstand at all, and just found that to be very offensive. So I didn't know why there weren't any, you know, and I asked a gentleman why weren't there any publications, whether it was at the time Black Enterprise, Ebony, Essence, and the sort, and the gentleman couldn't speak English to answer my question, you know. So anyway, make a long story short, I said, you know what, and I had no intention, Dale, to start a business in South Florida. But again, I saw this as an opportunity when they didn't exist. And I asked, I didn't know anyone, but for the people that I did run across, I said, if there was a need for a new publication, a magazine of some sort, what would you recommend? And everyone said, hey, I think a business publication targeting the Black business community would be a great idea. So I'm not one to labor and think about things. I'm like you. I'm a doer. And in 3 to 4 months, I had my first issue out. And 16 years later, we're the largest distributed Black publication of our kind, not only in South Florida, not only in the state of Florida, but the entire United States of America.
I want to go back a little further to really tell the audience about our history. And you were publisher of an amazing magazine called Mentor Magazine, which was an outstanding publication that really provided all sorts of mentors and role models for young people. And you remember, I had this idea for this Take Your Community to Work Day. And I was at Deloitte Consulting at the time, and we because you had a contact with United Airlines, we got together, and United Airlines put on the Take Your Community to Work Day program in 80 U.S. cities and 11 countries.
I remember that, internationally.
Internationally, and because of our partnership, with no money, we didn't raise any money, but many kids around the world were helped because of so you had that publishing expertise. anyway, it's not like you just decided to do this magazine. You knew what you were doing. And so now how did you connect with the Miami Herald? How did you, that's a pretty big partner.
Well, and that's why I tell people, you always need to, have your nose clean and make sure you're wearing always clean underwear and what have you, because you never know who's watching you.
Right.
Never know who's watching you. So around 2010, I got this call from the Miami Herald who said, listen, we'd be interested in forming a partnership with you. But, we had thought about this several years ago, but of course, 2008 hit. And at the time, that wasn't a good time for anyone in my industry to be do collaborations or any of that sort of stuff. So in 2010, as I said, they contacted me and said, hey, listen, we would, with the Miami Herald actually, in terms of their coverage and in terms of their the subscription base, and as far as the Black community is concerned, it's not very good. They didn't have a really good relationship with the Black community. So by partnering with me and enabling us to work together and having my publication distributed as an insert, it was a win-win for them. It was a win for me and a win for them. A win for them because now they have a way of reaching the Black community. Although the publication belonged to me and I owned it 100%, at least they would have an opportunity to say, well, listen, we have an outreach to the Black community. And for me, it took away some of the financial responsibilities, such as printing and distribution, which they did for me as part of our deal.
Right.
So that still goes on to this very day. And I will tell you that a couple of years after, I got a call from the Sun Sentinel who said, hey, listen, is your deal exclusive with the Miami Herald? And I said, no. And they said, we'd be interested in working out a deal with you as well, if interested. And I said, absolutely. So now my publication is distributed inside of the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel. The Miami Herald obviously is distributed in Miami-Dade County, and the Sun Sentinel is distributed inside of the Sun Sentinel newspapers, which is distributed in Broward County and Palm Beach County.
Well, and that's amazing because you've been a connector of these small businesses, these largely Black businesses, and how large is that? I mean, it's. I've been down to some of your events and other things. It is an amazingly influential part of South Florida. What kind of coverage do you provide for about these businesses?
Well, in terms of viewership, in terms of readership, I should say, in terms of our readership is about 600,000 equally in Miami. And the other month, we're reaching over 1.2 million people in the South Florida community.
Amazing. And what kinds of things do you talk about? Do you write stories about the businesses, or what are some of the focus of the stories?
Yes, we editorialize the success and the achievement of the Black business community in South Florida. So simply put, our heroes and heroes, those individuals, I mean, everything in life, everything that we do is about business. Right. It's about commerce. It's about moving dollars and cents. I don't care if you're a religious institution like a church, if you're an educational institution like a school or a college, or you're a not-for-profit. It's still about moving dollars. Right. And if you're about moving dollars in commerce, that's business. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
So we editorialize the success, the achievement of individuals and entities. So if you are an educator, if you are a doctor, if you are a lawyer, if you're a banker, if you're a social worker, and you're excellent at your craft, we're going to recognize you, and we're going to find you, and we're going to recognize you in our publication. Our publication has some signature issues, which we identify the top Black educators, the top Black healthcare professionals, the 40 under 40. We also pay homage to Black women in business. We top Black women in business and industry, and then of course we have our signature issue where we honor and recognize the top Black business business professionals, business leaders for the year. And it's 50 from Miami, that's in the Miami Herald, and 50 from Broward and Palm Beach County, that's in the Sun Sentinel.
Unbelievable. And so, again, we're talking about, you work largely with black businesses, but the keys to success apply to every business. So whether you have a black business or a Latino business or a white business or an Asian business or woman-owned business, what are some of the things, when you identify some of those superstar business leaders, what are some of the commonalities you've seen over the years, about what makes someone successful?
Well, I tell you, I think what I see in the type of, if I had to create someone, I would say someone who's been knocked down and they've gotten back up, someone who's gotten their hands dirty and been able to clean them off again. It builds character. It builds someone who's been knocked down and get up to fight again, and then over and over again. It builds character, and it builds an internal fortitude for the person. So I would say that's one of the main characters that I have found in successful individuals, or some of the people that I've recognized are those that persevere, those that have the intestinal fortitude for the long race. Where it's like the tortoise and the hare,
right,
and the tortoise and the rabbit.
Right.
It's not a matter of who gets off to the quickest start. It's a matter of who finishes.
And so really resilience. You're talking about resilience for those businesses. One of the things when I interview a lot of family business owners, you talk about succession, and virtually every business that's had successful succession, the kids start out sweeping the floors. They start out doing menial labor. They start out doing, because they value the business more. If they start out with a silver spoon as a VP, they don't respect it as much. And have you seen that with businesses, family businesses, and others in Florida?
Yeah, I have. And I think you're absolutely right. You got to start from the ground in order to understand and really truly know and understand what business is all about. You got to start at the very beginning, at the very bottom, to understand all the processes and the procedures, and understand how the business is run. If you're going to start right off giving a cushy job, and right next to your dad or next to your mom or your uncle or whomever it may be, you'll never truly understand what dad or what your aunt or what your mom did in order to build this business from the ground floor up. So you are learning from the ground floor up.
And in addition, you garner more respect from your coworkers, the non-family members. If they know that you've swept toilets and you were willing to do whatever, they respect you. If you come across,
you got to put in your time.
You got to put in your time.
Again, in order to, you may have been around the business for all your life, but let's face it, in most of those situations, if while you're going to while you're in high school and college and what have you, you might come in and be an intern for the summer, but you're not really engaged in the day-to-day activity. Truly, you're not out there you're not out there in terms of making the calls or doing the dirty work or doing even the hard work, know?
Right. So one of the things in this time that, this whole COVID pandemic has really exposed the reality that America is a small business country, that the jobs are small business. I mean, we're nearing 40 million people who are unemployed because of the pandemic. Small businesses were stopped. One of the challenges is, and it was a surprise to a lot of leaders because, big businesses have extra profitability to hire lobbyists. Unions have money to hire lobbyists. Small businesses don't have money to hire lobbyists. So again, I'm in New Jersey, and so I'm very active on the governor's Restart and Recovery Commission here in New Jersey to kind of, on Main Street, to advise these small businesses. How are things going in South Florida with COVID and small businesses being closed down? Are you seeing some businesses closed or on the brink?
Yeah, it's no different than any place else, to be totally honest with you. The situation here is, fortunately today, a lot as this interview is being done today, there are businesses that or the counties are opening up. But there used to be a saying in the black community, when America when America catches a cold, Black America would catch pneumonia.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how to phrase that today, because with COVID, as you know, Black people are being are catching and contracting COVID at a greater rate than any other. Black and brown people are at a greater rate than the general white population. So from a health perspective, we're being impacted in a terrible way, and certainly from a business perspective, many businesses have gone under. Many businesses are suffering mightily, unfortunately, at the time, and many of them were depending and have depended upon the PPP to get them through to the other side. But it has been really tough as I talk to many of my contemporaries in South Florida.
Well, and so let's talk about restaurants. Are restaurants, are they opening up down in Florida, or can you go in a restaurant? Do you have to sit on the street, or how is that working?
Yeah, well, restaurants are opening up, as a matter of fact, but there's still it's a 20, I believe it's 25%. It can only be open, I believe it's 25% occupancy, and you have to still maintain that social distance of 6 feet. So what a lot of restaurants are doing, like I know in some certain areas, they block off the streets, and they actually have tables out in the street. Actually have table service in the streets, and of course delivery service is obviously what's recommended in these times. But at least now someone can sit down if they want to sit down. But it'll be in the streets. At least some of the restaurants and some of the towns are offering that opportunity to the restaurants.
Is the state, one of the things, and which is why I'm honored to serve on this committee, to really advocate, and we have Tim Sullivan, who was interviewed on my Friday show, who runs the Economic Development Authority, is really concerned about small businesses. Do you, and we're going to take a break in a second, but do you see that government, in fact, we're going to take a break, but afterwards I want you to say, is government really sensitive to small business in Florida? Do you think that they're doing as much as they can? So we'll take a break right now, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
I want to be a contender. I want a warm belly to sleep on.
A big house.
How do I look? Do I look good?
I want to play hard.
My nails done once a month.
I want
a home. I just want a home. I want someone to love.
Last year, more than 30,000 companion animals came to us without homes. 20,000 of them were felines. Let's make some homes together.
Welcome back to Family Business World. I have Dexter Bridgeman, the CEO of MIA Media Group, and we're having a great conversation about businesses in South Florida. Dexter, are you seeing, as I asked before the break, are you seeing that politicians are starting to really understand that as small businesses go, so goes the economy in South Florida? Do they fully understand that yet, do you think?
I think they understand, but it's been it's been a hard road for them equally. I think under the circumstances, like again with the PPP, that's a very political situation, right? Where if you don't, and most Black businesses don't have great relationships with their banks, right? And on a percentage-wise, very few Black Black businesses have received PPP. Mm-hmm. So it's been extremely tough. I belong to an organization that's in the process of being formed at the moment, and our whole existence is in order to try to find alternative funding for Black businesses in the state of Florida. And we've been talking to our Senator Marco Rubio. We've had several calls with him and conversations with him as it relates to trying to devise a plan on how to help Black businesses in the state of Florida. I mean, obviously, as a small business person, I'm interested in our commerce and in terms of things getting back to where it was from a global and certainly from a macro perspective. But also, I'm a Black small business champion. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying by that? I mean, I'm concerned about our from a macro perspective, because I have to. I live in this world, right? I live, but at the same time, I'm very concerned and very much of an advocate of Black-owned business in the state of Florida and around the country.
Well, one of the things, I wrote an article, and I really kind of helped my influence in the state about saying, opportunity zones are fine, but we need what I call entrepreneur zones. And so the whole idea is for investments, and again, you and I, we should really write that article for South Florida too, that investments in the poorest communities and provide tax breaks for people that invest in those businesses. Many of them are Black and brown businesses in the urban community, so that they can get that capital. Because you have some amazing business people, they just don't have access to capital because they didn't grow up with money. They have bad credit. Banks aren't going to lend them the money, and even though they have a great business idea. And so you see that all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the deterrents of Black businesses, and a small business in general, but again, Black businesses, is a lack of access to capital. And if you're trying to make it, and it's very difficult, if you're trying to make it, start a business on your own and you can't get loans and what have you, it's a struggle. You may be struggling many years before you get your feet on the ground and before you're able to turn that corner. Whereas on the other side, the general market, they have access to capital. Mm-hmm. They will be able to have that money that they need right off the bat. And if you're starting off with a great deal of money and capital, and you're starting off with no real capital, but your own bank, who are you going to put your money on? At the same time, Black people, Black businesses are accustomed to those type of fights. So obviously, many of us who are in those situations, we fight hard, and we overcome.
Well, and people don't realize the disadvantage. And so, Jeff Bezos, who was at Princeton when I was there, the founder of Amazon, he borrowed $320,000 to start Amazon from his parents. Again, in a lot of urban Black other businesses, you're not going to borrow $320,000 from your parents.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, you might get a free dinner.
I mean, John Johnson, I don't know what it'd be comparable today, but John Johnson borrowed $500-600, I believe the number was $500 from his mother, which seemed like like an enormous amount of money at that time.
Right.
And obviously, upon his death, he was one of the wealthiest men in the country.
Yeah.
And he had built Johnson Publications into almost $1 billion company, and his net worth was over $500 million at the time. But those situations don't happen every day.
They don't happen every day, but it goes back to your comment when I asked you about what's the characteristic of the successful business people, is that resilience, is that just think about for this country, that now that people are realizing that entrepreneurs create the jobs in this country, and the best entrepreneurs are those with resilience. So if I were this country, I'd be investing in the places where the people with the most resilience are, which are the poor sections of the country. The black and brown, where the real entrepreneurs, because they have to survive. They can't get a job at a bank and just, have a comfortable middle-class life. So we as a country need to, that's why this whole idea of the entrepreneur zones, we need to begin to invest in those communities, because that's where the entrepreneurs who are going to create the next Amazons and the next Walmarts and others. And so you see that, and that,
And as you well know, small businesses are the engine, the economic engine to our country, not the big corporations that employ hundreds of thousands of people. It's all the moms and the pops who employ 10, 15, 5, 3, all those thousands of small businesses that are in this country.
Well, and the thing that I say is that they're almost all family businesses, because they don't just start with one person. There's a family member involved, and to help them through, who comes in, whether they're there every day or not. But they really are family businesses. The other thing, yesterday I had an article come out in the Jersey Business Magazine calling for what I call a public payment program, and the whole idea is that you don't have to mandate it, but every public agency, because now government's running out of money. One of the challenges is small businesses generate the tax revenue that gives government money to support small businesses. And when they're not making money, government doesn't have money to give them. So it's a cyclical thing. And so the only way you can do that is to really go to existing sources. And so one of the things that I'm saying in New Jersey, and we could write the same article with your magazine in Florida, is that public agencies like public schools could spend money on New Jersey or Florida certified minority businesses, women businesses, veteran businesses. And the example I use, and Jersey City, Newark, and Camden well, they spend over $2.1 billion that's their budget, $2.1 billion. If 5% of that was spent for minority certified, women, veteran certified businesses, Dex, that's $150 million that's going to be spent anyway that could go back to New Jersey communities. Same thing in Florida. And so I think if we look at the public agencies, they really have the revenue if they were really focused on hiring the businesses that you work with.
That's a really good idea. It's a really great concept. I know that I recently saw a statistic, that's about a week ago, that the state of Florida has lost almost $1 billion in tax income. And obviously, it's impacted the services that they're able to provide. Some of the cities, in fact, are talking about are doing furloughs and those type of things. Whoever thought they'd see the day of those types of situations, but we're in some desperate days down here. But something has to be. I think the idea is a real sound one, and why not? I think it's a great idea. We definitely got to give that some more thought, and would love to entertain and have you write an article in my publications regarding that.
Absolutely. Well, Dex, these things go by so quickly. We're at the end of time, and I just want to thank you, my friend. And I'm just so proud of you and your success down there. And not just your success, but how you've helped so many other businesses become successful. So keep up the good work, and we will see you hopefully soon. We'll get down there.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure and honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you invite me again.
All right, another episode of Family Business World. We thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Iorio.